Thursday, March 23rd, 2017.
We gave her $11,000.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dispense with the minutes of the...
Oh, Carolyn,
We have no minutes. They're in various stages of proofing.
Okay.
second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yeah.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenango?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Pete?
Okay, I've yet to talk directly with the clerk of the city, but they want to use our office building chambers on Saturday, April 8th. I don't see any problem with that.
Nope.
We'll just give them the usual thing of making sure they've got somebody that's monitoring the building.
Who is it, Pete?
City of Sandusky.
Okay.
I didn't think it'd be a problem. So I'll be getting back with them about the details. Got a call from News Channel 5 out of Cleveland. They're asking some questions about the sports park. Basically, I provided some, financial details and, how we finance that project. They're gonna air a segment tomorrow morning, probably between 5 and 6 in the morning. Just so you know.
And you obviously, did they contact Cedar Fair
I do not know.
or Sports Wars?
I don't know. I'm assuming they did. They were just asking for the
Make sure,
financing backgrounds.
but make sure you say that Cedar Point put the land in and Cedar
I did.
Point put the millions.
Right, right. Exactly. Interestingly enough, I also got a call from someone in Antioch, Illinois, wanting to know about how we did that project as well. So I had a discussion with a gentleman regarding that.
Guess we're getting famous.
Just so you know that we've been, I'm trying to think, I think this goes back to around 2012, but we had a contract with the Republic to provide essentially bins for recycling, containers at 5 different locations.
Mm-hmm.
It was very cheap. When we just did that recent bid, they changed their prices quite a bit. Essentially almost 10 times of what they were.
Really?
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's about $1,300 a year for all 5 locations, but I asked the Solid Waste Management District if they'd pick up the cost. They said they will. That's all I got.
That's it?
That's it.
How are we doing on the budget?
Well, according to Ed, they should be ready for Monday.
Pete, somebody asked me, and maybe Gary has been telling this, that the new law went into effect about concealed carry on public property, and they said that we still have a no gun sign up in the parking garage downtown. Do we have to take that down?
No, we don't. That's still at our control. We can decide whether we want concealed carry on the premises or not.
But employees can have guns in their car without, if they have a license, without repercussions regardless of that sign. Is that your understanding?
I'll be honest with you, I really don't know. I don't know that law that well.
Someone just inquired, and I said, that was my understanding of the law, but I'm not sure.
I could look into that. I think that was the purpose, though, is that that was the perceived problem, is that you could carry it, but if you can't leave it in your car at the end of your trip, then you can't carry it from the beginning of your trip.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the point, was that you could leave it in your car at your workplace.
Yeah,
In order to be able to carry it.
Employers can't stop you.
Right, they can prevent it from being in the premises other than in your car.
Public employers, right?
Well, that's what I'm not sure of. I don't think there's an exception for a public employer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it allows us that if we wanted to, like in this building, because there's no judicial facilities, that we could permit it.
We could.
We could take the signs down. If you have a permit, you could carry your gun in
But
here.
just as to the end of a commute or a trip like that, you can't prohibit them from having it in the car, because otherwise you're preventing the carry basically all day
Mm-hmm.
when they're not there. So we could bring in parking, my understanding. We can look into the detail of that, but I think that would apply also for public employees, that part of it, that they could park in this parking lot for you.
Sure.
So did you get a chance to talk to Gary about what we found about this section 12122?
No, I have not.
Okay. We have, I had a few attorneys look into this public meetings exceptions, section 12122.
Mhm.
And I think what we ought to do is take some time and look at this in regard to the lease that was signed with North Point. There's some language in there that refers to a purchase or sale. And of course, we're saying this is a sale because it's an option to purchase, with the lease turning into the opportunity to buy it, is void if the seller or buyer of the public property has received covert information, I'm reading from the section, from a member of a public body that has not been disclosed to the general public in sufficient time for other prospective buyers and sellers to prepare or submit offers. Then it goes on to read about that isn't invalid unless adopted in open meeting resolution. And I think the question is we have Pete Shade from the health department came up and asked why he'd been trying to get into a discussion on buying this building or leasing this building for a period of time. And I think he's on the record as saying that, he would pay more money, and if he'd have known about this. And so I think we ought to at least look into that. I don't think there's anything to be said for it now, but maybe next week if you could reference it and get back with us.
I'm not sure what the specific question is.
To see if the lease is in fact valid at this point.
Based on the public meeting statute,
Section 12122.
22.
Well, I can say something about Mr. Shade. I did a public records request at Perkins Township. In Perkins Town, he had a meeting with the administrator at Perkins Township and told him, and there were notes being taken at the meeting, and I think you've seen them, where he said he was not interested in that building, that he was gonna pursue something elsewhere, and he was.
Yeah. I don't think that's the case because he came up here in the
Well,
meeting
at
and
the
was
last meeting,
very
you said
upset.
there was a backdoor deal. And I asked Pete specifically, what went on during that conversation. There was no backdoor deal. I was not involved with it. Pete was involved, the attorney was involved. North Point's attorneys were involved.
Well, luckily,
Well, you insinuating that there was a backdoor deal. There was no backdoor deal.
well, what this section refers to, Bill, is that if there was a seller or buyer of public property has received covert information from a member of a public body, which could be only one commissioner, that has not been disclosed to the general public. So I think where the error is that we didn't offer it to the general public via our normal means of doing that. And one of the public bodies was Pete Shade, who was very interested in the property. If he'd have known that it was available for $3,000, he obviously would have took it. So, and I
You
don't
gave,
think,
Pat,
and I
you
think-
gave him a tour with the Department of Disabilities back in May of 2016.
and at that time, he said, I'm interested. I want the building. I think there's,
Well, he never came to us, and that was, then he went and talked to Perkins Township after that,
yeah, no, that's not the case.
and said he was not interested.
That's not the case.
Okay.
So, but we can certainly get Mr. Shade in here and ask him.
Yeah,
Easy enough to do.
you can take a look.
Mr. Shanigo, by next meeting, there's not a meeting next Thursday, and Monday's a budget meeting, so give me 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, you want to do these resolutions?
What if you give them to me?
All you gotta do is ask.
Okay. Board of County Commissioners entering into an agreement with Down to Earth Demolition.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
Authorizing payment to Lucas County Coroner.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
Authorizing the drawing of warrants and payment of amounts due upon contract or order.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
Entering into an agreement with Premier Contract and Excavating LLC.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
Authorizing payment to Eastman and Smith.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
Entering into an agreement with D.A. Van Dam and Associates.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
Clearing certain items surplus and ordering to be discarded or salvaged.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
Entering into an agreement with Barnes Nursery.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Entering into an agreement with Ed Perdue.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
If you agree, please cancel Thursday, March 30th commission meeting and schedule a meeting on Monday, March 27th.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
If you agree, please cancel the following meetings in motion: April 6th, 10th, 17th, 20th, and 24th.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
Declaring certain equipment surplus and ordering to be sold on an internet auction.
Second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shenigo?
Yes.
The meeting I just referred to in 2 weeks is also canceled.
That's right.
April 6th.
It would have to be then on Monday, April 3rd. Well,
Is it gonna be a regular meeting, full meeting?
yes, it is.
Okay.
There's a meeting on
Well,
April
Only
3rd.
thing is, I won't have a full board. I won't have a full board until the end of April.
Whatever the board's pleasure. I mean, I can present whatever, and I'm not sure that's not, you won't want an executive session on whatever we're talking about at that point. That's up to the board.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe we should wait till the full board's back.
That won't be until April 27th.
I'm fine with
Whatever
that.
the board likes.
That's fine.
Can we plan on that for April 22nd then?
Please, yeah.
Did I miss one? No. Nope, that's for Gary. You're all set. Thank you.
So do you want to do this bid opening first, do you think?
Yeah, I
You
don't
got
want to
two
interrupt.
things at the same time.
I know, well, we had a glitch. We had a
Go
bid
find out
canceled.
where they're at.
We had a bid set, and then it was canceled, and then it was reset, so.
That's 45. Who's doing the bid opening?
County engineer.
So Jeannie Lawrence was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Must've been very smart you ran that.
Sure.
Edison has had an unbelievable year.
They're doing
They won-
fantastic.
They won the academic challenge, won the football, they won the golf, they got regional. They had a state wrestling.
But
a lot of pressure on the baseball team.
Yes. They typically do really well in baseball too. They're just,
That field house
stacked.
they put in over there is really nice.
Yeah.
And you know, it gives the kids some impetus to excel. That whole area over there.
You're up.
Okay. They intend to do the tabulations and try to get that back into us today yet, so we can award that bid before the meeting closes.
Unless I'm looking at the wrong calendar, it looks like April 22nd is a Sunday.
27.
27th.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just, okay.
Yeah, I looked
That
at,
definitely looks
I
like-
looked
Yeah,
at,
but
the-
not
I
that
heard
bad.
the same thing you did. I'm looking at that. Well, it must be the 27th.
That really is a special meeting.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
All right, we're ready for you.
Bid opening for Joppa Road structure up 309, Florence Township. First bid is from Schalk Brothers, Clifton, Ohio.
Okay.
Bid bond is included.
I like this. This much better. Yeah.
Bid in the amount of $390,034.90. Bid in the amount of $390,034.90. Next bid is from Dennis Concrete, Wellington, Ohio. Bid bond is included. Bid in the amount of $340,154.50. Bid in the amount of $340,154.50.
Move that we turn these over to the engineer's office.
second?
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Shinville? You all set? Okay. All right. You wanna start?
Well, that's good.
They will not be coming back. They were gonna try to come back in, they're not going to, so we don't need to worry for them.
Only one to look at.
Yeah.
Again, if you could sign the sign-in sheet, please, if you would.
Go ahead.
All right, this is the first public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant 2017. There are some changes that
They have water in them.
there are some changes that the state of Ohio is proposing. Having done this for 26 years, it is, and really they've not made any changes to the program in the last 26 years, minor incremental changes. But this is something completely different. They are going from an annual allocation So in the past, Erie County would have received an annual allocation from the state of Ohio for CDBG. They are going to a biennial allocation. So we will be receiving funding every 2 years. So
You didn't want that, right?
we had suggested that very thing 5 years ago to the state of Ohio. We proposed that, but they gave us no heads up that this was coming. It's going to be a new funding cycle. It'll be 2018 to 2020. So we are out for there's going to be certain programs that we can apply for this year. There are going to be certain programs we cannot apply for this year. And that's a wholesale change from what they've done in the past 26 years. We had advocated this 5 years ago, and why they decided to do it this year, I have no idea. But we're going to have an opportunity to speak with senior leadership here coming up. When the governor is in town on April 4th, senior leadership is going to meet with our office to kind of get our input. And I said, hey, you could hear some real negative things. I mean, we're not real happy with the way that they rolled this out. We would have preferred to give us a year in advance so we could budget appropriately for this change. In the end, we're going to, I see a silver lining. I mean, we'll get 2 years worth of money. We'll only have to do half the grant agreements with the state. They only have to issue half the grant agreements. So I think there is a silver lining to it. I would just wish they would have rolled it out a little bit differently.
How does that affect 17?
17, we're not going to we won't get an allocation. Now in the past, last year, I think our allocation was $126,000. We will not get it. But going forward, if you double what we got in 16, we're at $242,000.
But do you skip a year?
You skip a year. So the funding that we would have received in 17 will go to the Appalachian. So all the truly low-income communities across the state, they're going to get funded this year. So they're going to take what we would have received and give it to the lower moderate income communities.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. How do you fund the programs that we fund in 17 then?
I'll get to that in just a second.
Oh, okay.
There are some things that we can apply for. But, and so that, primarily it's going to be the CHIP program, and you'll see that in just a second.
Okay.
So it is a new funding cycle. We will be moving forward. It'll be 2018 to 20, and they haven't, but they have. They've they've put out new rules that they're proposing, and we have until the 31st of this month to comment on them, which we have. And we said, we don't care. We like the idea, we just wish you would have rolled it out differently. And we proposed some alternatives. They don't have enough time to change. So our allocation application would be due at the end of June. It's the end of March. They don't have time to put out new rules between the end of March and June when our application technically, so they haven't locked this in yet, but they really have, because they haven't given themselves enough time to come up with new rules and accommodate the requests that we've made to give us additional points. Since we're out this year, we should get additional points on other programs that we can apply for. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay. So I don't foresee them making any changes, but like I said, we're going to have an opportunity, actually we're going to have two opportunities going forward to speak to senior leadership, and we'll do it in a very diplomatic way, and express our, it's not going to be displeasure, but concern that they give us more lead time in the future so we can budget accordingly. And when we've already talked to communities, last year and said, look, this CDBG money could fund these types of projects. Yeah. And so those communities were looking forward to that this year. And now we can't do it. Like I said, this is different from anything they've done in the last 26 years. So the CDBG program, you're all familiar with it. It was created in '74. It's administered by HUD. It's the oldest of the block grant programs. The funds are distributed on a formula basis, which includes population, poverty, incidence of overcrowded housing, and the age of the housing stock. Generally speaking, the CDBG program has to meet one of the three national objectives. Projects have to benefit at least 51% low and moderate income persons. A project could aid in the prevention or elimination of slum and blight, or it could meet an urgent or unique need of the community. Since '92, when I first started administering CDBG programs, we've been awarded $4.864 million with an average award of $202,704.16. Along with the allocation, there is a percentage that's set aside for administration. So we've been able to, we've taken $500,600 in total administration since '92. We've kept our administrative costs to just over 10%, and our average annual administration is $20,858.33. There have been years in the past when times were good, when we've taken no administration. We try and put as much money back out into the communities as possible. But as budgets have tightened up over the years, we've taken the full amount. So it has fluctuated, but I'd say in the last 10 years, we've taken the full amount of administration in order to continue these programs. Downtown Revitalization Grant, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner of your handout and on the screen. This is one of the programs we cannot apply for. The maximum allowed is $300,000 with a 15% admin. Projects target the central business district, improve blighted streetscapes, and rehabilitate deteriorated buildings' facades. We also can address code violations. One of the programs we cannot apply for. Neighborhood revitalization. We are in the process of wrapping up the neighborhood revitalization program in conjunction with the city of Vermillion. It's been a very successful program. The max on the neighborhood revitalization is $300,000 with 15% admin, and it's designed to improve the quality of life in distressed neighborhoods. We can do construction, reconstruction, and rehabilitation of public infrastructure, and again, it's to target low and moderate income neighborhoods. Critical infrastructure, again, $300,000 is the cap with an admin of 10%. Critical infrastructure, if the county had a culvert that failed and closed a road, this would be an appropriate program to address that need. The big one, Community Housing Impact and Preservation, CHIP. We've been very successful in the past in the CHIP program. It is a competitive grant, very competitive grant, through the state of Ohio to provide deferred grants and loans to qualified homeowners and bring their houses up to code. So we first applied, our first CHIP grant was awarded in '95. We've been successful moving forward. It is a 2-year grant program. We're just under $5 million in awards with an average award of $527,444. This year is, again, something completely different. We are looking at partnering with the city of Sandusky, which we've never done. We partnered in the past with Vermillion and Huron, but we've never been able to link up with the city of Sandusky. This year, everything's fallen into place, and we can partner with the city of Vermillion or city of Sandusky. Our total grant application will be for the maximum $1.4 million. Each of those numbers on the right-hand column indicate the maximum that we're allowed to apply for.
Why is the city of Sandusky less?
They are capped because they're an entitlement community. They receive their CDBG funds directly from HUD. They are not going to a 2-year allocation, biennial allocation. They get their funds every year. And it's based on the number of low and moderate income individuals. Them being in our application will help our application scoring-wise because of the higher low and moderate income population.
So you think this may be giving us a little bit better chance?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The state of Ohio is not interested in writing more grant agreements. They're interested in writing less. In the past, Sandusky has always applied on their own. This brings everybody together under one umbrella grant application. So this is a good situation. This is the best situation we could hope for.
And we would administer the whole
On
grant
behalf of
for-
everybody.
on behalf
That is
of
correct.
everybody. Okay.
That is correct. These are the income guidelines set by HUD that would guide each of the activities within the CHIP application. And I'm going to go through these as quickly as possible. I know Carolyn said I had 5 minutes. So we can do private owner rehabilitation. This is typically the largest portion of the CHIP grant. Homeowners have to be income qualified. They have to be at the 80% low and moderate income. The maximum amount that we can apply for is, or that we can put into a unit is $46,000. And we were just talking with the prosecutor's office on liens. There's a lien placed for the entire amount of the rehab. So 16% per year over a 5-year period would be forgiven. So at the end of 5 years, 80% of that lien is forgiven. 20% would be due upon sale. So whenever that property transfers, we would recapture 20%. That allows us to continue to do these type of projects. It gives us some sustainability going forward without being dependent on the state of Ohio. Rental rehabilitation, tenants must be income qualified, not the landlord, but the tenants. The landlord has to commit 50%. We can spend a maximum of $46,000 per unit. That includes the landlord's portion. And the landlord must agree to rent to an income qualified tenant.
Do they have the payback?
There is a lien filed, but it expires at the end of 5 years. It completely extinguishes. So there is no payback unless they would sell the unit in that 5-year period. Then there's a prorated recapture portion. Yes.
Okay.
Owner home repair. This is where we can do a single repair, like a leaking roof or a furnace. The maximum is $15,000. We can exceed the maximum if we're looking at a replacement of a failing septic system. That is a grant. There is no lien filed. In the case of rehabilitation, homeowner occupied rehabilitation, there is a walkaway policy. If our inspector goes in, does a write-up of the house, and the estimate comes back in excess of the maximum amount that we can put into the unit, you saw the maximums listed previously. If it's in excess of the maximum that we're allowed to put into the unit, we cannot put a dime into that unit. We can't just fix 1 or 2 items. That prevents us continually pouring more and more money into a unit when we could be fixing somebody else's. The money pit situation is what I call it. Costs for homeowner occupied rehabilitation, there are no direct costs to the applicant. Rental rehab, there would be no cost to the tenant. The only cost would be to pay off the lien when it's due upon sale. Rental home repair, again, this is similar to the homeowner repair, where we do a single item, we address a single item. Landlord must contribute 50% with the maximum amount of $15,000 per unit. Homeownership has been challenging. We have to have a buyer in the right place at the right time. We can help with down payment assistance, and we can help rehabilitate the house. The maximum amount per unit is $47,000. This did not, during our Housing Advisory Committee review, this activity did not score well. And I don't anticipate that it'll be included as part of our CHIP application. Because you have to be in the right place at the right time. It's been a challenge to everybody across the state. Habitat, in the past, has been a challenge as well. We can work with Habitat. Maximum amount is $20,000. We can put it towards acquisition of land, materials, or labor. It is a 10-year forgivable loan. We've had challenges because we weren't partnered with the city of Sandusky. Finding affordable lots outside the city of Sandusky can be challenging. Habitat has very strict income requirements as well. You can't expend more than 30% of your total income for housing needs. So it's been challenging. I think with us partnering with the city of Sandusky, this is going to be a little bit less challenging. So I look forward to us perhaps partnering on a single unit in the city of Sandusky with Habitat. Tenant-based rental assistance, we can help tenants that qualify with a down payment, first month's rent, and security deposit. That is a grant we've worked with Erie Metro Housing in the past. It's worked very well. There are several other grant programs that we are able to qualify for this year. The Economic Development and Public Infrastructure, up to $500,000. But those are tied to job creation, expanding and retaining businesses.
So on that and the next one, are they separate from this 1 point?
Correct. It's a totally separate grant program. You are correct.
So if we had a project, you can get both of those
Correct.
500,000s?
Correct.
Are they very competitive also?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. We have not done it, we've done the residential, at the bottom of the page, the residential public infrastructure. That's what we're working with the Village of Bayview right now to tap people into the new sanitary sewer.
How much did you get for that?
600,000. The state keeps reducing the amount that they give out annually in order to spread it around to more communities. So, the RPIG, as it's known, the residential public infrastructure grant, is up to $500,000. That, so far, that has worked well. But going back to the economic development and public infrastructure, we have not done those in the past. The job creation part is the challenge. That's gonna be the challenge, because when you say you're gonna create 15 jobs or 20 jobs, state's gonna come in and make sure that you created 15 or 20 jobs. And if not, they want that money back.
And
You can,
and this does it, could, for instance, we have 2 water plants, 2 sources of water, I should say, it's Huron and Sandusky. We could do something
again, it's
in
gonna be
Huron.
tied to low and moderate income. We would have to establish that at least 51% of the beneficiaries are gonna be low and moderate income.
On the jobs.
Correct.
Okay, I got something in mind.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
There is a Targets of Opportunity program. This has no maximum. There is no deadline. It is an open cycle. We've been talking with the Village of Milan on this project. They are looking at some historic renovations on the village square. And so that may be one opportunity. But this is something that doesn't fit in with the normal grant cycle, so, or other programs that are available. So that's going to be a unique one. We've never done the Targets of Opportunity as well.
How much money's in that program?
It's like $10 million, I think. But it'll go extremely quickly, and it's first come, first serve.
Okay.
Our second public hearing is going to be April 13th at 10 o'clock, correct, Carolyn?
Yes.
Our application, our CHIP application, is due May 5th to the state of Ohio. The grant announcement, I would, September, the first week of September is when I assume that they will make the announcements for the CHIP. Again, it's very competitive. And then our projects, specifically the CHIP program, would start moving the end of this year or spring of 18. April is Fair Housing Month. You cannot discriminate on any of the following protected classes listed there. There's our contact information if you have a fair housing complaint. City of Sandusky has their own housing, fair housing contact information, as does the State of Ohio Civil Rights Commission.
Who runs the housing for the city of Sandusky? Who does that for them?
Community, it'd be Matt
Lasko?
Lasko's department, yes.
Yeah.
Question?
Tim, that residential public infrastructure, you can do that once a year?
I don't think, well, no, it's on a 2-year cycle. So if we're funded for 6A and 16, you wouldn't be able to apply again till 18, till those funds are, and the grant agreement expires.
Well, I think that's something we could take advantage of practically.
Again, it's gonna be targeted towards low and moderate income
We have
individuals.
a project that would create jobs with low to moderate income. A lot of,
This is one that doesn't, the jobs piece doesn't even have to come into
Correct.
play.
Correct. On the
But it can.
RPIG.
But it
On the
can.
economic development one, that's correct.
Yeah, economic development, but the RPIG, we can, because I think we used to do those a lot, long time ago. Like when Hushmanami was running Erie Regional Planning, we'd get something like that practically every year.
The RPIG it's a little bit different, but,
Okay.
and verifying income can be challenging. We tried to do,
Yeah, I would think it could be, but
we tried to do a critical infrastructure grant application last year, And the community that we targeted, a good portion of the people refused to answer, because you go door to door and you ask people how much they make. Somebody came to my door and asked me how much I make, I'd probably be reluctant too, but we failed to get enough people identified as low and moderate income. It's challenging.
You're embarrassed you make too much?
No, I come from a family that, that's not something that we talk about. So if somebody came to my door, especially somebody from the government, asked me how much I make, I'd probably be reluctant.
So what's the definition of community? Like the village of Milan Township?
There was an identified neighborhood that, in Milan, that had a flooding situation every time it rained. Their storm sewers were inadequate. So this grant that we were looking at would have fixed that, rectified, and there was, I don't know, 30, 40 homes and we had to have 51% identified as low amount, when we couldn't get 51% to tell us what their income was.
Yeah.
So without that, we can't apply. So it fell apart.
But the other one is tied to
Job
job
creation.
creation, and those have to be low to moderate income jobs.
Employees, correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
and that's up to 500,000.
And like I said, we've never done it before, but I think some of the employers, for the amount of money that's available, some don't feel that the paperwork is worth it.
And that's water and sewer?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you help them with the paperwork?
We can, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, we try and walk people through it, but they take a look at it. And some businesses just don't want to be bothered. They want as least government interference as they possibly can have. So,
Okay.
any other questions?
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Okay. Think we have anything else? Any items on?
Ohio Lake Erie Commission.
Oh, we do. That must be you. Okay, sorry. We're running behind.
I will hurry up then.
Oh, no, you're the last one. You can take all day. I don't care.
I wouldn't do that to you. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. I'm Carl Gebhardt, and I'm the Executive Director for the Ohio Lake Erie Commission. The Commission has been around since the late 1990s. Unfortunately, a lot of folks aren't aware of it, and we know that elected officials especially come and go. And so I've been on about a year and a half, and I've been hitting the coast, starting in Conneaut and Toledo, and kind of working towards the middle, just to introduce myself to you, to make you aware of some of the programs we're involved in, but also to hear what's on your mind. Lake Erie, I'm sure, is very critical to Erie County and this whole area. We have a lot of big issues going on with the lake. The governor's recognized that by coming up here April 4th for the State of the State. So I have provided you with a copy of the Lake Erie Protection and Restoration Plan. That lays out about 12, 13 priority areas that the state of Ohio is interested in working on with Lake Erie. Now, we also realize that Ohio, while a big portion of Lake Erie is under our jurisdiction, it's not solely under our jurisdiction. And we share that with Indiana. We also share it primarily with Michigan as far as the lake itself, Pennsylvania and New York, but also across the pond in Canada with Ontario. And so we, as the Lake Erie Commission, not only try to coordinate programs within the state of Ohio, within our various state agencies, but also with our federal partners as well as internationally. And we do that through various Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement that was signed between the United States and Canada, as well as the Great Lakes Western Lake Erie Basin Collaborative, which is focused primarily on the nutrient issues on Lake Erie, where Ohio, along with Indiana, Michigan, and Ontario, signed an agreement to start working towards a 40% reduction in nutrients going into the lake, which is causing our algae and microcystin problems. So we are engaged in that. The commission is comprised of the 6 directors of the departments most involved with the lake: Natural Resource, EPA, Agriculture, Transportation, Development Services, Health. And then we have 5 members that are public members are appointed by the governor. So we are located in Columbus, but we also have an office in Sandusky, in with our Coastal Management Office. And we have one of our staff people is also working out of our Bowling Green office for the Ohio EPA. We've provided space there. So we are right now, the Lake Erie Protection and Restoration Plan, as you can imagine, is focused on primarily the nutrient issue. We're also working very much on trying to come up with some beneficial uses for dredge material. We dredge a lot of material out of Lake Erie, almost 1 million cubic yards a year out of Toledo itself. A couple 100,000 cubic yards out of Sandusky, about the same amount out of Huron, and as we go further east, it's a little less. Cleveland is maybe 200,000 to 300,000 cubic yards. And that's every year, about every other year for Huron and Sandusky. So we did pass a law in 2015, Senate Bill 1, which prohibits the open lake disposal of dredge material back into Lake Erie. So we are now going to be looking for ways that we can beneficially reuse that material. Sometimes I refer to it as some of the best farmland in Ohio is at the bottom of Lake Erie. And so we're working, yes, sir, go ahead.
So, just a question, I think
Yep.
there's some litigation going on right now, or
There is.
potential, that, to stop it this year, not wait till 2020. I'm always curious, I was out at Huron, and Andy White has this giant hole
Yes.
that could dump the stuff in, and then, of course, we would end up with a beautiful park. Why don't they fill that hole up first?
That's a great question. And I've met with Andy several times. In fact, I may stop in
Very
today.
passionate about this.
He is, very much. He took me out on the new walkway, which is great. I saw that area about 10 years ago, and it doesn't look anything like it does today.
Yeah.
The containment, what we call the CDF, that's that area that I think you're referring to. That is actually controlled by the Corps of Engineers. And those were developed, there's one in Cleveland, several in Toledo. They were developed primarily to dump contaminated material in, stuff that had a lot of PCBs. Back in the 60s, 70s, even early 80s, we had a lot more contaminants in that sediment. So you really couldn't take it out and dump it into the lake. They still did, but the really bad stuff, they put it in these containment facilities. We have talked to the Corps, and this is one of the issues we have over in Cleveland, which is the court case. The Corps of Engineers is saying that material is clean enough to take on to the lake and dump. We're saying, no, it's not.
Out of the Cuyahoga River?
That's right.
Really? Okay.
And so the problem we're facing is something called the federal standard. And the Corps is saying that they operate on the premise that the most environmentally safe but most cost-effective means of disposal. Well, for the Corps, it's taking it out in the lake and dumping it. They say, we'll be happy to put it in the CDF, but it's going to cost someone the difference between the cost of taking it out to the lake and dumping it and putting it in the CDF. And in some cases, that could be millions of dollars. And so that's the battle right now with Cleveland, the Port of Cleveland, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the state of Ohio, is we're saying it's not clean enough to take out there. They're saying, yes, it is. And we'll see what the judge says. So we have a similar situation in Huron and even Toledo. Andy has that CDF out there that's causing, there's people that are going out there using it legally or illegally, but it does have a lot of opportunity. Well, the Corps is saying that they don't want to put material in there if it's clean. They want to save that space for contaminated material. They'd rather take it out into the lake and dump it. Well, come 2020, they're not going to have any choice. They're going to have to do something with it. So we've been talking to Andy about the possibility of either putting material in there or causing the Corps to put it in there, at least a part of it. Maybe creating some wetlands along the shoreline with some of the other, where you can set up actual barriers in the water, take that material, dump it in there, create a wetland, which provides great habitat. And so we are looking at those issues. But that's the problem. That area is controlled by the Corps. Usually when they fill a CDF up, they will then turn it over to a local jurisdiction. That's what's happened over in Cleveland. And actually in Toledo, they have part of the big CDF out there. We have a 600-acre CDF. Part of it is owned by the Port of Toledo. The other part is owned by the Corps. And they have a lot of capacity, but they don't want to put material in there if it's clean enough to take out into the lake. So that's kind of a long answer to your question, but that's a big issue that we're dealing with. When the governor is up for the state of the state on the afternoon of April 4th, we're actually coming out to Barnes Nursery. They are currently using dredged material from some private dredging operations. They're mixing it with some compost to make a soil amenity. And so we're going to have a demonstration out there to show what can be done with the material. Because like I said, for the most part, it's just good old topsoil that ended up in the bottom of Lake Erie. So we are going to be showing the processes they're using. We're also going to be doing an event with the city of Sandusky for Sandusky Bay. We've identified Sandusky Bay as an area of focus. It's really a microcosm of Lake Erie, and we have a lot of very positive things going on there, but we also have some issues because of nutrients coming in from the Sandusky watershed. The bay being very shallow, heats up very quickly, and it's one of the first areas to bloom with the algae. So we are working with the city of Sandusky and the Healthy Lake Erie Fund to start creating some in-water wetlands using dredge material from Sandusky Bay to create these wetlands within the bay and around the bay that will provide habitat and will also help suck up some of those nutrients that are in the bay, the vegetation. So we're going to be doing that on the afternoon, April 3rd. I believe it's at 10:30. And I'll make sure that if you haven't been notified of that, you will be. So,
Okay.
so anyhow, that's my story. Like I said, I just wanted to introduce myself to you. You have my card inside the report there. Feel free to call me at any time if you have questions. I'm more than happy to come up and meet with any other groups. But we're very interested in working with local governments. You know, a lot of these projects, as we just heard, through community development block grants. The Lake Erie Protection Fund does have a small fund that is funded through the sale of Lake Erie license plates that we can make available to local communities for research or demonstration projects. And so we understand the value the lake provides to the local communities, and we want to be good partners in helping work on those.
Thanks for
So,
coming.
unless you have any questions, look forward to seeing you some other time. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
I just wanted to make, before we adjourn, I wanted to make a correction. I think I had stated that Mr. Shenago and Mr. Shade had taken a tour of the facility out on Galloway Road in 2016. That was actually May of 2015. So that was a year and a half before we heard anything from Mr. Shade about wanting that facility. In fact, like I stated, he met with Perkins Township after that. And Perkins Township, he told Perkins Township that he was not interested in that building and he didn't want to pursue it.
Well, that's your opinion. All right, do I have a
mean, that's
motion
not-
to adjourn?
Not my opinion, that's stated facts.
Move adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mr. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Shenago?
Yes. Okay.